Budget control data maintenance was introduced to solve common data issues within budget control. The feature is designed to provide specific search criteria for accounting documents subject to budget control, and reprocess the documents to resolve a data inconsistency or recheck one that wasn't originally processed. The most common example is a situation where someone uploads the next year's budget before budget control is correctly configured for that year, which results in the existence of a budget but zero budget funds available to actually spend. Let's take a look at this common example. I am part of a public sector organization and I rely on budget control to prevent me from spending more than what I have budgeted. I'm going to add a new general ledger account for my 2023 budget and skip part of the configuration. Due to this misconfiguration, budget control balances won't be accurate and it will appear that I have no budget funds available. Then we will come back and fix the problem with budget control data maintenance. We will start with entering a new budget register entry. So I'll enter my amount and I'll save. You'll notice in the budget check column we get no visual indication, no green check mark. This is what tells me that something isn't quite right. So we'll go ahead and post that. In the past, this would mean that I would need to enter a negative budget to zero back out and then try again. But instead, we can use budget control data maintenance to reprocess the budget transaction once I've fixed my setup issue. So let's go to budget control configuration and we'll fix that now. So I've set up my years correctly, but if I look at my budget control rules for training, I was only looking at a single account previously, and I need to account for this new account. So I'm going to change this for is between and includes 602.200 through 602.20. And then we'll activate that change. Next, we'll open up budget control data maintenance. Starting out, we can provide a text description of what we're looking for, and then we'll need to set a number of parameters. We'll set the dates from for 2023. My document was confirmed, not draft, so we'll leave that at confirmed. And then we're going to click Select Scenarios. Select Scenarios will provide the details of what we're trying to fix. In our case, we'll be using the budget register entries not checked scenario, which will search the budget tables for any budget register entries between the date selected and the confirmed status I selected earlier. It will then filter the results down to any budget register entries that were not checked for budget control, but now would be subject to budget check with the current configuration in place. You will receive back a list of documents that meet this criteria. Select the documents that you want to process. You'll test this out in a test environment before production, of course, but the final process document step will perform an additional budget control check on the selected documents and properly track the budgeting dynamics with this. This feature saves the confusion and energy of having to add additional documents to work around problems like this. We also get a great audit-friendly log of what documents were found and what changes were made. Here I see that the budget check was found. And if I go back to my budget register entries, we'll see now that that entry also has a budget check passed. Let's look at another scenario. carry forward. If we check budget control configuration and budget funds available, we have an option called maintain carry forward status for documents. This configuration ensures that any edits made to a carry forward budget controlled document will not lose its carry forward status. In layman's terms, an organization will be able to use the amount allocated from the previous year's budget rather than consume current year budget. Without this configuration option marked, there were several processes that would inconsistently remove the carry forward flag on purchase orders, purchase requisitions, or relieving documents. Budget control data maintenance can be used for this scenario in order to run on any documents after the configuration I just mentioned was enabled. This can be done to ensure any documents will inherit the correct carry forward designation after that configuration is enabled. Let's go back and look at a more complicated example of the budget scenario. So the budget example is pretty straightforward when you're changing configuration and you just missed budget. But what about having a more complex change where you have actuals booked to an account that was never flagged for being budget control enabled? So I've gone ahead and I've walked through a more complicated example where I started out with a budget register entry for 2024, and then I did a purchase order and an invoice against that, all with budget control disabled. For this scenario, we're going to go and look at the budget control data maintenance scenario of source document reprocessing provider. So we're going to take this one from reverse, but if we look at budget control statistics, after I fixed all the data up, what I had done is I had done a $20,000 budget, not budget enabled. I had done a $10,000 purchase order, and then I had done a $2,500 invoice against that. So once everything is fully processed through budget control, we have $10,000 of the $20,000 budget remaining, with $2,500 of it being actual spend and $7,500 of it remaining in the purchase order where we have the commitment to spend, but we haven't actually spent it yet. So what that looked like back here in data maintenance is I first processed the budget register entry. So it went back and found my $10,000 budget register, my $20,000 budget register entry. And then I went in and did my source documents. At that point, I had my purchase order and my vendor invoice. So it found my PO for the $10,000, and then it found my $2,500 invoice. The big thing to call out here is that when we do the source document reprocessing, we go ahead and pick the filter for the individual document. So this is not wide open, finding everything that could possibly fit. You'll go ahead and pick the kind of sub scenario, and then it does require you to put in the actual purchase order number in this case. So I had to go to my all purchase order inquiry, grab this number, put this in, and then when I did this, it did go ahead and find the invoice attached to the PO as well. So when I did this, it pulled in both documents together for me here. But that is a pretty big caveat to be aware of, is that this won't just go and find everything, is that it is on a document by document basis. All right, thank you for joining me today for this overview on budget control data maintenance. This was a great introduction in order to see what all the capabilities are here. So if you do have a scenario where you're using budget control and either a mistake was made or additional configuration needs to be made while your budget control is in progress, you can use this tool to look at fixing your data. As always, make sure to go ahead and test out the scenario fully in test to make sure you're aware of all your documents, all your scenarios being as you'd expect after you re-enable budget control. And if you can do it correct from the first time and make sure that everything just naturally flows through the system, that is preferred whenever possible. Thank you very much.